Hey everybody, this is your local idiot here. I had a tiny little thought. Decided I'd share with you. Sorry about that. Well, I told some folks this is day 2 of my fasting, and so I told everybody I'd keep them up to date and all that, so you can follow the saga. And I regrettably, I'm really sorry about this, but I haven't gone crazy yet. And a little struggle last night. I won because basically I hid. Um, I got home from work, and I still hadn't eaten anything, of course, by that time. I usually I get home first. My wife has a longer drive to get home from work, and so I usually cook dinner for us. Um, and of course, this time it's tougher to cook dinner because I don't want to look at food. The only kind of food I actually could look at, like raw fish, like I have some like frozen salmon and stuff like that. And the other day I made her some. This is before I was fasting, and I made some frozen salmon, and the smell was horrifying. So I mean, if I really got into a jam, I guess I could open one of those up. It was fucking. I mean, it was terrible. But anyway, so I'm still not eating. I haven't descended into madness yet. But last night when I got home, instead of going toward the kitchen to do some cooking, I literally sat down on the couch for about 5 minutes and then finally decided, nope, I was too close to the kitchen. So I went upstairs to my bedroom and pretty much hid underneath the bed, in the fetal position. Pretended, there were food monsters downstairs that were trying to get me, and pretty much that's it. And so when my wife got home, I told her where the leftovers were in the fridge, and said, asked if she minded just microwaving that stuff, and she's like, no problem at all. She was actually really understanding. She didn't know. I think she didn't know I was fasting yet. But now today, it's like almost noon again. So day 2. So officially today is day 2. So it's the 16th. Now I know what the date is. 16th, and it's Wednesday, I guess. And 2 days, no food, which is, it doesn't sound like that much, but for a person like myself, that's an achievement. But I still have a long way to go before I even match where I was before. I was at 14 days before. And then my big goal is actually to go 21 days. So I will not be satisfied. I will not eat anything until the 21st day. So now also, since I have type 2 diabetes, is one of the reasons I'm doing this, that I read that some people were able to literally reset their body's function, and they had type 2 diabetes, and their pancreas began to work normally again after their fast. And I think the fast was the one I had heard about over and over again was 21 days, and that's why I'm aiming toward that. So next time I post, it might be tomorrow, but then again, what if I look like Gandhi by the time, that'd be so neat. I'm not going to wear the sheep thing though. It would look like a toga party on me, and those days are gone. So also, what was it? Oh yeah. So, I couldn't sleep, night before last. I think it was because I was hungry. So I woke up at like 3 a.m. and, couldn't get back to sleep. So finally I'm in school online. And so I got up, and I had a paper that was due yesterday, which is not complete today. But anyway, I wrote some of that paper, and then this morning when I got up, I wrote some more, and hopefully I'll finish it tonight when I get home and turn it in. But yeah. So here's my recommendation. If you can't sleep in the middle of the night, like at 3 a.m. or whatever, and you decide to get up and do something, do not write a paper. Do not write any of your paper, because you turn your brain on. That's what happened to me. And I don't mean in the weird way, but I switched the switch on, and it began to work again in the way it usually does. You hear noises and stuff, like pipes banging and stuff. But yeah, I was in terrible shape yesterday. with no sleep and the food thing and all that. So also, has anybody else heard about that Victoria's Secret's in big trouble financially, I guess? And I've been listening to NPR today, which is my kind of my news go-to. And they're talking about, like, some people are complaining that it's like, oh, they're too woke, as if that's a thing. You guys, I mean, I don't know if you all know my position on that, is that woke is a good thing, as woke as you need to be is a good thing. There's people that take anything, no matter what it is, too far. But this term woke really refers some specific things. It means, like waking up to a situation. The alternative to being woke is to being asleep or sedated or just completely aware. And so this is a really great example. Oh, my hair's going crazy. This is a really great example of this woke thing. Okay. And what some people's misunderstanding, it's almost like critical race theory, which people can say that, but then they can't define what it is. Woke is really simple. And the reason Victoria's Secret is having trouble right now, because they're having trouble adapting to the progress of time. Progressive. I don't know, that's a party, isn't it? Or like it's part of a party. Why is Victoria's Secret having a hard time? How about this? It's because they're marketing their products to be, one, just sexy and oriented towards skinny chicks with big boobs. Guess what? That's never been real. That's always been fake. Okay? The world, unless you're a very unsuccessful nation and live in one, isn't skinny. It's natural for us to have a few extra pounds when times are good. Let's go back to caveman days when our bodies were designed and perfected-ish. We're designed to gain weight when there's food. Springtime, gain a little weight. That way we can afford to lose a little weight in the wintertime. And we're still designed that way. And it's not fashionable to be overweight. But, it's slowly but surely starting to sink in with people that, hey, fashion isn't everything. And fashion, by the way, is kind of stupid. It's kind of sick. When it affects people's health and their happiness, you're allowed to look normal and still feel included in everything in life. Victoria's Secret, just like like it's like Montgomery Ward, the store. You used to have big catalogs and stuff. They were around forever. They failed to adapt to changing times, and they went out of business because of that. Well, Victoria's Secret, unless they adapt properly, they're going to go out of business. And that means stop objectifying women as if all they are is sex objects. It's going to have to happen. It's going, women are not going to be looked at as just sex objects in the future. They'll be looked at in the same way men are. Now, men are looked at as sex objects by women or by people that see men as attractive, and that's normal. But the idea of, there's no underwear company that specifically puts pictures of dudes with underwear on with big bulges or whatever the case may be to sell their underwear. They don't. They talk about how comfortable the underwear are. They talk about how long they last. Until a company can figure out that if you want to sell women's underwear, you're going to have to say how comfortable it is, how well it's made, and that's it. And stop trying to make women out to be, the bait at the end of the hook. Believe it or not, most women don't want to be that. They want to be countered. It's like there's still never been a woman president, which there's about to be, thank goodness. But the idea that we're still trying to play catch up like that, where that women have not been allowed to be in positions of power, like a president. Well, we got Oprah Winfrey and people like that, but she's even, as powerful and as rich as she is, she's even still subject to the same rules as other women, in that if she'd ever run for president, who knows if she'd have won, because she's a woman. And then still to this day, illegal and everything, but women don't make as much money in salary jobs generally as men do. Men could be working for the same company, and they always tell you don't share your salary with everybody else because they don't want there to be a big war about who makes what and stuff like that. And that's just in general. But in general, in America at least, women don't make as much money as men do because they're seen as less productive. Why are they less productive? Why are they less productive? Because they might have kids. Well, men are half that equation, but women are expected in our society still to this day to stay home with the kids while the man goes out and wins the bread, and that's just ridiculous. So Victoria's Secret, you better wake up because the rest of the world's waking up finally. In my lifetime, women couldn't own a credit card. They just couldn't because they weren't a person, I guess. In pretty close to my lifetime, at least, I was born in 1968, women couldn't own property in America. You believe that shit? I mean, in the Middle East, they still got all kinds of crazy restrictions on women. I should say still. In Iran, in the 50s, it was literally quite opposite. The Middle East was a very metropolitan place, and then there was an event where the hardcore religious people took over, which has never gone well for people. It's never made any nation successful. It's only ever restricted people. In America, when the hardcore religious people take over, people lose freedoms. They don't gain them. People lose money. They don't gain it. It's in history. It's documented. Look it up. Do some history. The whole point of studying history is so that we don't accidentally repeat the same mistakes over and over again. But if we don't study history, or worse yet, if usually greedy people, controlling people want to keep another segment of society down, like say women, or they want to make sure, or black people, or whatever, or they want to make sure that only certain people make enough money, men, white men, they will try to propagate, they'll try to market this idea to everybody, and they figured out a lot of great psychology of how to hoodwink stupid people into buying their shit. They say that like they use religion, which religion is a type of is a psychological way to control people too. We need to wise up as a people. And I'm not just talking about America. I'm talking about the human species. We need to wise up because smarter people who happen to be greedy
I just seen there's a car up here in front of me.
are doing their best to take advantage of us. And always that's always been the way since the time began. I'm sure when people were living in caves, some dude was trying to figure out how to make the big dude not beat him up, and at the same time how to be his friend, and at the same time how to make the chicks like him, and at some point, and with some individuals and groups, that was successful. So woke means we're waking up to the reality, and the reality is that women occupy the same amount of space in the world as men. Women occupy the same amount of intellectual space, and probably even a little bit more intellectual space than men generally, and that's my experience. I've had lots of women work for me in certain jobs, and I've had lots more men work for me in certain jobs because it was more construction and stuff like that. But one thing I found was that women in general were a lot more attentive. They paid attention to change, and they were a lot more detail oriented. So women aren't slouches by any means. And one day when they're given the same kind of encouragement educationally and things like that as men, they will surpass us, and they will be our leaders for the most part, I think, which is great in my opinion, because men are too bent on, I don't know if it's testosterone or what, but men are too bent on a peeing contest with each other. And I think 9 times out of 10 why we have wars is because of some dude gets offended by another dude, or maybe it does all come down to money. I don't know, but wake up, everybody. Start waking up. And I'm guilty of certain behaviors that I recognize every single time that I have. I probably could kind of look at science and know why I have them, but I still have them. And so this is an area, though, that I have figured out, thank goodness. And that I have absolute respect for women, just like I do for guys. There are many, many really great men, have been, and you don't have to be famous to be great. My father was a great man.
I have transfers for the Hill.
Nobody knows him. Nobody knew him. I mean, as far as, the public goes. But he was an actual great man, and I will never, ever, of course, believe me, I've tried my entire life, but I will never cast a shadow on his, on the character that he had. And women have just as much ability to be a great person as men, and there's been lots of great women documented over time. That the only reason there hasn't been more is simple, and that is because of the greedy, controlling men who have wanted to stay on the top, who've wanted to stay on top of the pile, So there's a lot of aspects to being woke. It doesn't always work for me, and that's one of the tricks right there. If you want to know if you're woke for the wrong reason, or if you're thinking of something for the wrong reason, are you against something that works against you and for stuff that works for you, even if it's not a very nice thing? And so here's one of the ways I can tell that I'm not completely bad that way. A really funny comedic guy, I'm not going to even say his name just because I just think it's inappropriate to talk shit out of school on the guy, but he was a Saturday Night Live guy and stuff like this, and became a politician. I really, really admire him to this day. And he kind of, in some ways, I felt like he kind of got railroaded, but at the same time, maybe not.
We have a well-called wound care that goes to Grandview Drive, and we still have one at the healing place that goes to Washington Apartment. But
he was on a USO flight to the Middle East, and along with other people, and while a woman was sleeping on a chair or whatever, he had somebody take a picture of him secretly going, he was grabbing her boob like as a joke. And he didn't touch her, but it was the very idea that it was this joke, very misogynistic in a way, because there's never ever been a picture where a man or where a woman is doing that with some sleeping guy. No, ever. Because it's not that funny, and women know that. But a guy would think that's funny. And that was during the Me Too movement, which was a giant catalyst to move the needle forward for people to say, hey, listen, this isn't cool. The way we're treating women, and the way like the Harvey Weinsteins and stuff. And I used to see it on my jobs that I worked at where there were men and women. I saw people that were all of our bosses, literally grabbing the asses of certain women and them feeling like they had to take it. If any one of them at any moment had said, Steve, would you defend me? I would have cleaned that guy's clock. But I always looked at it like, because I was really young back then and I didn't know, I'm like, if she didn't like it, because they always laughed it off. I'm like, if she didn't like it, she would say something. But I was so wrong. People want to keep their job. I mean, as a guy, I've never had to think that way. But,
Go ahead. What was the wheel call?
Sorry, I'm getting radio.
Healing place to Washington Apartment, and then wound care to Grandview Drive. I have to go to Manufacturing Drive, so whatever's closest to that, I can get that one.
All right, I'm going to get going so I can actually work.
Okay.
And but anyway, wake up, folks. Wake up with me. See ya.